Hi everyone, so I wanted to discuss some of the things that I found interesting when reading about fluency. I originally tried to do a Vocaroo, but it was extremely staticky, so I decided that screencast would be ideal. So one of the things that I found interesting that Tompkin talks about when discussing fluency was the different components of fluency. So Tompkin defines reading fluency in 3 different categories. She states that fluency is accuracy, reading speed, and prosody. So these are 3 important components when looking at reading fluency. Tompkin looks at accuracy as the ability to read familiar words and even unfamiliar words. Reading speed is the ability to read a certain words per minute, depending on grade level. And prosody is the expression that's used when reading. Now, Tompkins also talks about some of the obstacles to fluency, but before I begin to talk about that, I want to talk about the videos that I watched. So I noticed that one of the videos that I watched really helped support E&L learners by taking photos of prospective vocabulary words. Students are creating their own vocabulary words with the images that they took, which I found was a very extremely creative way for students to be engaged with learning vocabulary. When watching the video on concept sorting, I found that really interesting for vocabulary, since fluency is the ability to read accurately. So Tompkins talks about some of the obstacles when teaching reading fluency and writing fluency. And one of the obstacles with teaching reading fluency is the high frequency words. So these words are words that are either abstract or articles in which students just have to remember, so like sight words. In addition to addressing some of the problems or obstacles with fluency, then Tompkins addresses some strategies that we can implement to solve and intervene with these issues. And the video showed some intervention and some strategies that can be utilized to help fluency, like the list group labeling, the concept sorts, the taking pictures of prospective vocabulary words. There are different strategies that can be utilized to increase fluency. Tompkins talks about some other strategies that can be utilized to increase fluency, and some of the strategies that she talks about is phonic analysis, decoding by analogy. So these are some of the strategies that she uses for word identification. So once we incorporate these strategies to help reading fluency, Tompkins discusses ways to intervene. So one of the ways she talks about is to develop background knowledge based off of vocabulary. So maybe talk about experiences with new vocabulary, visuals, all this pre-reading vocabulary that can be utilized before it's actually used in the text. So that's one way to improve fluency and to help with vocabulary. Another thing that she talks about is teaching the word identification strategies that I discussed earlier that will help students with vocabulary as well with fluency, and providing more time for reading and writing practice. So providing more time for the during reading portion, after reading portion, and even sometimes more time for the pre-reading when students are building that background knowledge with the vocabulary words prior to reading the text with the vocabulary words in it. Finally, some other strategies that Tompkins talks about in order to help with another part of fluency, which is reading, is having choral reading, and having choral reading will allow students to pick up their reading speed. Silent reading is also another strategy that is used to help with reading and reading speed. Finally, some strategies that improve fluency and prosody is different strategies that Tompkins talks about. Again, you can use the choral reading, you can use the reader's theater. That's another way to help with prosody and expression when reading. Think out loud is another strategy that Tompkins discusses that can effectively help with prosody as well.